In Singapore, the laws governing the distribution of assets in divorce cases can be quite intricate. Couples are often unaware of these legal complexities and then might find themselves in disputes over what should or shouldn't be shared during divorce proceedings. Inheritance and gifts. Shares in family owned businesses are not shared if a spouse is a beneficiary and not an employee. Gifts from friends or relatives are also not divided unless there is an opportunity to transform them into family assets. For example, suppose one spouse inherits shares in a family business but is not actively involved. So, in that case, these shares may remain non shareable in a divorce. What assets can and can't be shared in a divorce? In Singapore, the laws governing the distribution of assets in divorce cases can be quite intricate. Couples are often unaware of these legal complexities and then might find themselves in disputes over what should or shouldn't be shared during divorce proceedings. Number one, assets acquired during the marriage. The matrimonial home, cars, insurance policies, and cash in bank accounts, even if they are in one's name. Expensive gifts between spouses also fall into this category if they were purchased with their salaries or bonuses. In the case of divorce, these assets are subject to division. For example, suppose a husband buys a car during the marriage. In that case, it is considered a matrimonial asset and both spouses can have a claim to it in a divorce. Number two, assets owned by a spouse before marriage are typically not shared. However, if a property owned by one spouse before marriage becomes the matrimonial home, it is then considered transformed into the family asset. If during the marriage a substantial portion of the mortgage on a spouse's premarital property is paid, it can also be shared. For example, a man owned a home before marriage, but both spouses contributed to the mortgage payments. In the event of a divorce, the house can be subject to division. Number three, assets owned prior to the marriage. Assets owned by one spouse before the marriage remain non-shareable unless improvements are made during the marriage. If no changes or improvements are made, they remain with the original owner. For example, a woman owns stocks received as inheritance before her marriage. If she didn't mix them with marital assets or use them for substantial improvements, they remain hers alone. Number four, inheritance and gifts. Shares in family owned businesses are not shared if a spouse is a beneficiary and not an employee. Gifts from friends or relatives are also not divided unless there is an opportunity to transform them into family assets. For example, suppose one spouse inherits shares in a family business but is not actively involved. So, in that case, these shares may remain non shareable in a divorce. Number five, regifting. If you regift assets you've received, you can't reclaim them as they weren't purchased by you. For example, if a husband inherits a house from his parents and then gifts it to his wife, he can't reclaim it later on in the event of a divorce. Number six, gifts made during the marriage. Gifts exchanged between spouses during the marriage, like birthday presents or anniversary gifts, are considered matrimonial assets. Inducements and incentives provided during the marriage, even if under unique circumstances, are subject to division. For example, a husband offers a property to his wife to persuade her to withdraw her divorce. In a later divorce, the property remains a matrimonial asset. Recent comments in Singapore's courts also suggest that gifts exchanged between spouses may be excluded from marital disputes in the future. The intention behind this shift may be to honor the gifting nature of these items and avoid disputes over items meant for the recipient's benefit. While this rule is yet to be officially adopted, it reflects a positive shift towards a more reasonable and practical handling of matrimonial assets. So now you know. If you found this helpful, follow and subscribe to our channel for more legal things.